Okay. Hey, Steve. It's so great to have you with us. How are you going?
I'm great. How are you?
Really, really well. Thank you. So, why don't
Good.
you start off by telling us a little bit about your business and kind of your goals with your new program that I know you're working on, and we can go from there.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you. I am launching a program called Face It and Ace It in 90 days.
Love it.
And it is uh, for medical students and residents preparing for high stakes exams. And it's essentially a roadmap that walks them through every day in the 90 days leading up to their big exam. I'm a doctor and have dealt with a lot of these and taught an SAT prep class before I went to med school. So
Okay.
anyway, it's an interest of mine and something that I have some expertise in, and I'm really excited about it.
Fantastic. That sounds so amazing. So, tell me, what would you like to get out of our session today to help you with your next steps with Face It?
Sure. Anything that I can do to better reach my targeted audience
Yeah.
will help. And this is in its very earliest stages.
Yeah.
This program I've created. So in terms of marketing and branding and messaging, all these things are kind of new to me.
Yeah,
So.
fair enough. So tell me about your goals for the program. Like, how many people do you want in it? When do you want to launch it and actually have it running?
Sure. So as you and I are speaking right now, it's December of 2019. My goal is to have everything up and going by March of 2020.
Okay.
I set March 1st of 2020 as sort of a goal or a deadline for myself. One of the big exams that medical students have to take, both here in the United States and abroad, is called the USMLE exam, Step 1. And it's an exam that second-year medical students take in between their second and third year. And those exam scores are weighed heavily when they're applying for residency.
Right.
So very high stakes, very high stress. And generally speaking, that exam is taken in June. And
Right.
so right around March is when most med students start gearing up. So that's when I'd like to launch it.
Awesome. I was going to ask, when do these exams actually take place? So that's perfect. You've already thought that through in terms of relevancy. It's going to be top of mind for them. They're going to be thinking ahead. So how many people did you say you want in it?
So yeah, sorry, I didn't mention that. Ideally, if 500 to 1,000 people could enroll a year, that would be
Wow.
that would be great. I don't know, how realistic that is or not. It's not a live workshop or webinar, that kind of thing. It's going to
Okay.
be a program that users can purchase and use anytime at their own pace.
Yeah.
So it's not one-on-one coaching or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So those are the goals.
Okay. So is this actually teaching them the content they need to know, or simply how best to prepare?
Great question. So it is not teaching them the content they need to know. It is not for any one specific exam. The
Okay.
content that the program teaches really has to do with dealing with test stress and test anxiety. So what Face It and Ace It in 90 days really does is it will help people optimize study time and eliminate test stress so that they can create more study time, make the most of the study time they have, and build their confidence so that by the time they hit exam day, they have a very deep-seated sense that they have earned the right to succeed.
Awesome. Love it. I love how specific and clear you are on your niche, your audience, your overall message. So a couple of things I want to tap into, but as you just shared about the kind of key benefits which are coming out of it, so how to maximize and optimize their study time, how to feel less stress, and how to walk into that exam room and just feel like, I've got this. What is the so what outcome of that? So that's kind of like the immediate need. Like, okay, I have no freaking clue where to start when it comes to studying for this. I'm,
Right.
filled with anxiety at the prospect of not passing it.
Right.
What is this going to allow them to do overall long term that they really care about?
The so what for the program is for people who find themselves fearful or anxious about the prospect of taking a high stakes exam, that's what this program will help them do.
And what's the long-term benefit and outcome of passing therefore their exam? What are they actually going to have as a result of knowing how to nail it?
Sure. So going into exam day with the confidence that they have done everything they can, that they have overcome their personal challenges. The sorts of mile marker exams that everyone needs to take and pass and do well on in medicine, just they allow you to get to the next step essentially.
Mm-hmm.
However, the emotional toll of preparing for it and getting through it can really put your own life and your loved ones' lives into chaos and disarray. And so this sort of thing, being able to manage yourself better, to manage your emotional state a little bit better, allows you to kind of keep things a little steadier and a little more even keeled.
And as a result, they can actually land their residency goals, right? Is
Correct.
Kind of the
So
actual
in the
outcome
case of
of it.
medical students, yes, they'd be able to land their residency goals. In the case of residents, they'd be able to pass their board exams. Passing the board exams allows for them to join practices and get credentialed with hospitals that they want to, or join faculties and departments in university medical centers that they want to. So having success on these exams definitely allows them to achieve their career goals.
It's life-changing, right? The results of these
Correct.
exams, essentially,
Yes.
therefore, are life-changing. So I love how specific you are about the immediate short-term gains and goals, which is, minimal stress, have that calm and composure in the actual exam room, quiet in the inner noise. But the so what of that is actually that bigger picture vision. Like, what's it all for? What is this all for? And I'm getting goosebumps as I say this, and it's not even my dream. But, it's this idea that I'm putting myself through, crazy amounts of work, both on the practical side and on the mental study side. Why? Because I want to change other people's lives for the better, right? I want to be someone who can give the great news. I want to be someone who can support someone to have better health, like whatever it is in terms of the specific area of medicine they want to specialize in. I want to have choices about where I work. I want to be able to, work in a specialist practice of my dreams. But none of that is possible without, ticking these boxes, right? Without hitting these milestones. And that's the unfortunate reality that, it doesn't matter how great your in-person ability is with patient care, and it doesn't matter how amazing you are when you show up in your scrubs. If you can't pass the exams, that's it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that language needs to be in your messaging just as much as those immediate, you're going to have less stress in your exams piece. Because ultimately, why does it matter that I have less stress around my exams? Because most people, I think, just accept that exams are going to be stressful to a degree, right? It's just a shitty time and we're going to have to suck it up and deal with it. But what if this made the difference to me actually fulfilling my dream goals? What if this made the difference for the years of effort that I've put in? What if this paved the way to getting everything I've ever wanted and my first choice of everything I ever wanted? That is worth investing in, right?
Yeah.
What's resonating for you there?
So yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I think on the one hand, to flesh out what doing well in these exams will mean as life-changing events for the people going through them. It's obvious in a field like medicine, similar to a field like law, with, you take the LSAT exam to be admitted into a law school, and then you take your exams in law school, and then you have to pass the bar. And so the path is very clear.
Yeah.
However, what you just explained does resonate and is right on the money, because in medicine, all of us thought about it when we were kids and in high school and in college, because we wanted to help others and we wanted to improve people's lives and do something cool and all of that.
Make the world a better place.
Yeah. And I think that reminding my audience, right, who, again, I mean, these are people who are constituted for fear and test stress and test anxiety, reminding them of the positives, I think is very powerful. You know, no, they don't need to be reminded of the negatives about these exams. I think they have the positives emphasized. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and the difference they can make as a result, right? And ultimately, in their long-term career path, this is going to be a little blip in their memory of, oh yeah, those exams were a bit stressful. But, you know, really, in the grand scheme of things, this is about changing the world one patient at a time, right? And having that impact at a time that you can have that is genuinely life-changing. So I think there's two prongs to it. There's talking about that short-term immediate need, which is this pressing deadline that's literally, you know, probably looming over them like a dark cloud. And I think people are going to be starting to think about that from January. You know, they're going to relax for the holidays at the end of this year. And then from January, it's going to be, okay, boom. How am I going to prepare myself? How am I going to get started in this? How am I going to make sure this counts? Because the impact of not getting it right, the impact of failing is what does that mean in terms of delays or retakes or consequences?
Yeah. So, you know, one of the reasons why I thought about creating a course like this is the first time I took my specialty board exam, I failed it. And it's given once a year. So I needed to wait an entire year before I had my, you know, second shot at redemption.
Okay. So now I have to wait a whole year to even have a chance of succeeding again, with no guarantees that I will the second time, right? And it's a long journey to becoming a qualified doctor. Like you don't want to push it out any longer. So I think you have a lot of fantastic angles of messaging with this. I think you have what I'd love you to brainstorm around is brainstorming the specific scenarios of what you know is already going through their head. So, you know, what are they already thinking about these exams? What's the day-to-day reality of study, you know, when they're cramming? You know, are they up till all hours, surviving on no sleep? Are they taking, you know, lots of caffeine? You know, are they an awful person to live with? You know, there's kind of like that day-to-day that can kind of be humorous reality. And then there's that kind of more soul-destroying, what if this doesn't work out and the consequences of that, and I don't get to fulfill my dreams. And then there's that whole, you know, you can't afford to get this wrong, right? Really, you can't. So investing in this in terms of knowing how to prioritize your time, but also getting you in the right headspace to really smash through this is essential. It's not a nice to have. Okay, so how you manage your stress through these exams is also going to serve you for how you manage your stress in the reality of the world when you become a doctor, right? And in those moments where push comes to shove, and unlike most 9-to-5s, it really is a life or death scenario half the time, right? Depending on your speciality. So I think there's also that sense of, well, what does it really take to win in medicine, full stop? Not just in the exams, but as a whole. It's going to take that strength of character, right? That emotional resilience more than anything. And that's not what you're taught in medical school, right?
Right.
There's a massive glaring gap
at all.
that you're not taught. And ultimately, that is the difference that makes a difference between those who succumb to burnout, those who succumb to stress and anxiety, who end up failing despite being way smart enough to pass those exams, and then potentially put everything else in jeopardy. So we all know those familiar feelings of fear of failure. We all know the trap we can fall into when it comes to self-sabotage. And that's what you're going to hone into with this messaging, that, you know, don't allow yourself to be a statistics. I know you have some fantastic statistics about the number of people who actually do fail these exams and have to wait another whole year or whatever it is to have an attempt to repass them, when actually all you needed was X, Y, and Z, which, hey, I'm going to show you in this program. Okay, so your program basically needs to show the step-by-step framework or methodology or approach that's going to help them get from A to B, so that none of this is all just a non-issue. They're going to know exactly how to prepare, how to focus, how to manage the energy levels, how to walk into that exam room, how to crush this exam paper, so that they can then have their first choice, of where they want to go and who they want to support and help with, and ultimately have that glittering career that they've always dreamed of, as well as creating the skill set that is also going to serve them through there. So there's so many plus points and benefits here that need to come across, I think, in this messaging. And it's relating to where they are right now in terms of that dialogue that's going on in their head, the anxiety, the fear of failure, the how am I going to fit this in? Where do I even start? What to focus on first? How am I going to remember it all? Cram, blah, 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 blah. Now, how long is it going to take someone to go through your program in order to support them with this? I know it's 90 days space, but let's say per day, what's the minimum?
Correct. I mean, so the per day time commitment with the program is about 20 to 30 minutes.
Okay. So
max. I mean, probably, someone could go through it in 15 minutes.
Okay,
so
perfect. We'll go with that one.
Okay.
So in the time it takes you to go and buy and drink a cup of coffee, you will know exactly what you need to be doing in order to basically pass your exams and, secure your future, right? Like that's just, really over dramatizing it and simplifying it. But we want to have that sense of just 15 minutes a day, because if they see this as another thing that's going to take up time that they have to spend going through, that in itself is going to be a barrier, right? They're like, I can't spend time on that. I've got to spend time actually learning my content. So what we need to anticipate that specific objection, because these are going to be time poor people, as you know, and really reframe that so that, the time they are spending is actually effective. The time they're spending is actually going to help them in the right way, help them be productive, help them get the result they want, instead of just spending hours and hours and getting no sleep and sacrificing their own health and relationships potentially. Like, what if you knew exactly what to do and in just 15 minutes per day? Like, everyone has 15 minutes per day to get a better result for their future, right?
Yeah.
So
totally.
reframing that 15 minutes, 15 minutes might be the amount of time it takes them to go from one part of the hospital to another, or go up and down in a lift. They could be listening to your training in that 15 minutes, right?
Yeah, totally.
So thinking about little snippets of their day-to-day lives and where they could fit this in will also make it a lot more accessible and approachable. But whenever we think about messaging and promoting a program, we want to be anticipating and one step ahead of potential objections, so we can actually call them out and say, hey, I know what you're going to say. You don't have time for this. But that's when we want to dig into that. Do you really want to take the risk of having an entire year wasted when actually just 15 minutes a day could eradicate that need? It could eradicate that possibility. Then we've reframed it in a whole different way. It's like, hell no, I'm not going to spend a year waiting around for my next opportunity when I could have just, not watched Netflix for 15 minutes and instead watch this or whatever it might be. Okay.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally.
Okay, cool. So let's think about where your people are at and how you reach them. So I assume these are people who are obviously part of a university or medical schools, or they're already working within hospitals, not knowing the area at all.
Yep. All the above.
Okay, cool. So do you have direct access to your ideal clients already in any shape or form?
I don't. There is a very well visited website among medical students and residents that is curated and run by medical students and residents, and they've been around for years and years and years. I mean, I went to it when I was in medical school, and I recently reached out to them about the possibility of advertising on the site, and I will be able to do that. So yeah, I mean, what they charge per month is a little high. So I want to make sure I have all of my ducks in a row before, I invest that money.
Yeah, sure.
Once I do that, it will be like banner advertising in the specific forums for medical students that are preparing for these exams. So,
and what's the price point per student? What are you hoping to get out of this?
So for tier 1, I'm charging $197, and for tier 2, $297.
Okay. So what, for your first time launch, what would be a great result in terms of number of people? I know the eventual goal is 500 to 1,000, but right now we're starting from no audience. So what would just feel like you were, yes, this is happening. I've made it real. I've got some cash. I've got clients. I'm getting results.
Yeah, I would say 25
Okay.
clients.
Okay. 25 clients. So we don't need to spend lots of money on advertising to get 25 clients.
Yeah.
So who
Okay.
do you already know that has your audience that you could potentially create some form of win-win partnership with?
I don't really know who I could reach out to that works with medical students or residents. So
But if you think about the organizations that do,
yeah.
right? So this is ultimately, well, who do I know in a hospital environment, or who do I know in a university environment? Who do I know that's working with these exact people I'm trying to attract? Where, you know, maybe you know them personally, already have a relationship. It's so fantastic. That's golden. Let's leverage it. Maybe you don't, but this is something that you know they need.
So, you know, as you're saying that, Holly, what I'm realizing is there are people at many university medical centers who are their fields of expertise are in behavioral health and mental health. So either counselors or social workers or psychologists, etc. And they are there in order to help doctors that are going through burnout issues.
Right.
And these can be doctors who are in practice. They could be medical students. They could be residents. And if my audience, my ideal audience, is composed of medical students and residents and doctors in training who have a high stakes exam they need to take and are predisposed to fear, stress, and anxiety, then there is likely a cross demographic among people who might be working with the specialists in like the physician burnout
Right.
offices and centers, and those might be people to reach out to.
Okay, fantastic. Because in the same way that we think about creating some sort of opt-in online where someone initially sees some great content, they sign up, they join our list in our community, and then we nurture that relationship. It's the same approach offline. But often the offline in-person approach can be a lot faster and a lot more powerful in terms of getting results in a more immediate way. Just because you've got that in-person connection that is harder to cultivate online and takes more time to cultivate online. So it's really, well, what is that taster of your program that you could potentially offer as a win-win for access to and exposure to this ideal audience of yours, where you can basically give them perhaps, you know, I don't know, 3 key strategies to manage exam stress. And then you segue into, by the way, I have this 90-day step-by-step program. So it's potentially like a signature talk, if that's something that you feel could work well in this type of environment. And that's where you're basically introduced by the university or the hospital, or whatever it might be, and instantly have trust and credibility because you are a guest expert or a guest speaker, coming to support the students, medical students, with preparing for the exams that are, you know, imminent in the next few months. And then there's a very clear call to action in terms of, so how do they find out more about your program, or how do they snap up, you know, one of the founding members' rates? So perhaps you have a special, you know, early bird because this is the pilot phase and it's never going to be this price again. So this is your opportunity to jump on board, you know, and you're just getting traction, because what we want is, we want to test it out. We want to test that people love it. We want to test that people get results from it, because then you use those results and case studies and testimonials in the next time that you launch. And this is how you'll start to build that word of mouth around it and the reputation that this is the thing that all medical students need in order to nail their exams and secure their glittering dream future of being a real doctor, right? So, but we've got to start where we're at. We've got to start small and then start, how do we get that traction and momentum as easily and fast as possible? That might mean that the first round of people go through this at $97, if you feel that that's going to be the thing that gets more people into it. or, you know, however we decide to kind of approach it. But
Sure.
going to the source in terms of where these people are already at, and offering valuable tips and content that's really just that surface level of what you're going to be sharing in this 90-day program, so they can get a feel for you, get a feel for the content, but most importantly, take away that message that they can't afford not to do this.
Yeah.
And they'll hear your story in this as well. That's really, really key. Like, why are you so passionate about this? Because I've been there, guys. You do not want to wait another whole year to embark upon your dream career with this, when you can eliminate that possibility by being prepared.
Yeah. Yeah.
Slam dunk, right? For $97, 15 minutes a day. Yeah, I want to secure my dream future. Thanks.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, totally.
So that's an idea of where to start with tapping into your audience that I feel is just, you know, we've got to go for our low hanging fruit.
Right.
So there's multiple strategies we could also discuss about online and tapping into audiences there. We can definitely look at that as next step, if that would be helpful. But I think right now, where's your lowest hanging fruit? Where do you already have the connections? Where do you already have the relationships? Where does it already make sense as a win-win because you know there's a need and there's a gap in terms of the expertise of the people around them at this point in time that can fulfill that need? You know, no one has this specialist face it and ace it 90-day program. No one has figured out the exact framework around optimizing their time, as well as optimizing how to quiet the inner critic alongside all of that, right? So this is that really holistic approach. But as we said, it's a short-term gain for a long-term, you know, ultimate win. And it's a skill set that's going to serve them now and forever. So this is hugely powerful. I mean, it's definitely worth way more than $197, $297. But let's start there and let's test it and see what the appetite is. And then once you have case studies and testimonials who can talk to the value of it, then you can position it perhaps at a higher price point later on too.
Yeah. That sounds fantastic. I love that idea of reaching out to university medical centers and you know, seeing if they would be interested in my coming to give a presentation. Here in Chicago, where I live, there are 5 medical schools and 5 university medical centers. They're all, you know, pretty close together. And so just I could stay locally and potentially do that. And honestly, when you were saying that, it kind of lit me up, because just doing that in and of itself is something that I would really enjoy a lot.
Brilliant.
You know?
Be passionate about.
I do. And one of the things I enjoy most about doing what I do as a doctor is mentoring the residents. And I really enjoy that part of it.
Fantastic.
And so it would be something that would certainly promote the program, but it would be something that would be personally gratifying as well. So
well, that's fantastic. So there you go. That's where the win-win happens, right? It's actually a win-win-win, because it's a win for the university, it's a win for the students, and it's a win for you. So it ticks every box, which is fantastic. I'm so thrilled, Steve, that resonates, that it feels exciting to you, that you now have a clear focus, because if your number one focus for the next period of time is those 5 medical schools, then, you know, you've got a really solid game plan there, where you know you're going to be accessing your ideal market.
Yeah.
In a really high touch, high trust way, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Very happy.
This is great. Yeah, this is great, Holly. I got so much out of our time together. I really did.
I'm so thrilled, Steve.